and woman that married at 19 and 20 were certainly not the same people that are here before us today. You married young, very young, barely past childhood yourselves. You worked hard, you laughed, you fought, you loved, and you cried. You made children and you raised those children. There was joy, fear, stress, and excitement. You saw your faith tested and you felt closer to God than you ever imagined possible. You suffered loss, you experienced gain, and you did it all while standing next to each other. It might seem trivializing to sum up 50 years of marriage so simply, but that's exactly what it was. It was life. The mundane day-to-day is, when lived together, what constitutes a beautiful life. It is the peaks and valleys with your God-given spouse by your side. At some point, both of you have had to ask the other for forgiveness. Both of you have felt like you sacrificed something in order to be married and to have children. Both of you stared at your babies in wonder, thanking God for them, while you tried to determine whose eyes they inherited. Sometimes you felt hurt by one another. Other times you felt your other half could do no wrong. This is marriage. Marriage meant crying when you didn't have time to change out of your pajamas all day because the kids needed your undivided attention. Supper was ruined because you had your hands too full with diapers, childish orals, and rambunctious toddlers, and your husband arrived home to find you with tears of frustration and defeat. He hugged you, dried your eyes, and said he'd be happy to make himself a peanut butter sandwich. Marriage meant coming home from work after an exhausting day of upsets in the field or at the office, and you were worn out to your bones. The kids were screaming and right through the door, and your wife may have been cranky. Probably not. But when everyone was in bed, she listened and rubbed your feet as you vented, and you both didn't feel so alone or defeated anymore. You two were there once, and if you pause and reflect, you can take yourself right back to those feelings. But your marriage looks different now. You're getting older, and at some point, each of you has depended entirely on the other to get you to a doctor's appointment and to care for you during recovery from various ailments. While you used to be cheerleaders and trombone players and lovingly roughhouse with your children, now you wonder if you should move the laundry machine upstairs so you can avoid the stairs that seem to become more and more strenuous each day. This isn't a bad or sad thing. This is the gift of life. It has its phases, and if we're not careful, we'll only see the negative in each of those phases. Sleepless nights and diapers, no time to yourselves, burnt dinners and work stresses fade into doctor's appointments, hospitals, sore joints, and a 4:30 supper time. You can look at it through those eyes, or you can see it as the gift that it is, new life created in love that cried for you to feed them in the night, allowing precious time alone, holding your baby in the quiet dark hours. Years of dedicating time to your kids allow you to watch them play sports or piano, to marvel at their achievements, and to admire the men and women they become. In the later years, you praise the Lord who gave you a partner to help you accomplish the things you can no longer do on your own. When you get older, you circle back to life before kids, where it is just you and the spouse God gave you to enjoy each other's company again. So while some days will seem hard, mundane, boring, or ordinary, they are anything but that. They are a sacred gift. The crying baby and sore joints are evidence of a life of enduring love and longevity. When you look at your spouse, you can become overwhelmed with love for the person looking back at you, the woman who labored in agony to deliver your children, then gently loved and cared for them, the woman whose gentle hands ease your stiff neck after a long day of work, the man who put his body through physical strain each day to provide for you and your children, who brought you flowers for no reason other than to make you smile. This is the gift. The gift is each other. If we're honest, sometimes we take our spouses for granted. But imagine life without them. Imagine if you were one of the people who didn't have a spouse as part of God's plan for them, and you never met, and your children and grandchildren didn't exist. Imagine if your spouse one day woke up, but by the end of that day, they were in the presence of God. Sometimes we forget what a gift a spouse is, and we forget to look at them and really see them. When is the last time you looked at each other and saw each other for who you really are? Mom, you're a woman who is spunky and knows what she wants, who loves a good laugh and to make others laugh. You're a woman who's always willing to help, loves to read, loves adventures, loves a challenge, and has very thick skin. Dad, you're a man who delights in simple things like your grandkids' imaginations or a home-cooked meal, who loves history and a good story. You're a man who isn't afraid to show emotions like most men are, who can make anyone feel welcome and who is solidly planted on his principles. You're not just Alice, wife and mother and retired bus driver. You're not just Ed, husband and father and retired farmer and salesman. You are individuals that God saw fit to bring together because you complement each other in a way that He knew would be prosperous. Don't lose sight of the person who captured your eye and your heart more than 50 years ago. No matter how different they look than they did 50 years ago, or if they're a bit hardened or changed by life's experiences, they are at the core the same person you fell in love with. You are still the two people who took an old house and put sweat and tears into making it a beautiful, safe home where you could be so proud to raise your children in. You are still the two people who have traveled the world together and stood in awe of the difference in those cultures from our own. Think back to the early years where one of you couldn't handle one more minute of a screaming baby, so you handed them off to the other parent, who was strong when you felt weak, and soothed that baby while you were charged. Remember the times you had to take comfort in each other while grieving the loss of loved ones. Or, more recently, as you relied on the other to help you recover from a physical ailment. Marriage is this mystery. Two people who are complete individuals become one, and while still individuals, are united in their deepest soul. Now, 50 years after you first stood together at the altar before God and your loved ones, you're once again at the altar before God and your loved ones. No longer love-struck, barely adults, you are in awe of how fast those 50 years went. Having witnessed your children become men and women and seeing your grandchildren growing into young men and ladies, you realize just how quickly the time has gone. The grandbabies being at an age where they can be a major part of the ceremony is bittersweet, both humbling and a testimony of the abundant life you shared. Being here today with close family and friends who have been there for the many, many ups and downs and who have shown you and your children love and support is another gift that you've been blessed with. We are all so happy to be here for your special day. May God give you many, many more happy years together. We just told us about 50 more, but we're not good. In summation, Alice, I believe we can all agree that you're a fox. And Ed is one lucky, lucky man.